Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bethesda Business Foundation webinar this evening. We are so delighted to have you joining us this evening. This is our first webinar for 2021, and we are live on our platforms on Facebook and YouTube. Our topic for today, for today's discussion, is creating a generation of outliers, specifically looking at the road to recovery. Now, I just want to, before I delve in deeper, I just want to give you a little bit of background on who the Bethesda Business Foundation is. We operate under the auspices of the Bethesda Christian Center, and our main mandate as the Bethesda Business Foundation is to create a platform for information sharing, ideas sharing for all professionals and entrepreneurs and anyone that is in business within the Bethesda Christian Center community. However, we are open. It's not only for the BCC community, we are also open to other members. We generally share information through network functions. We used to have business breakfast, and we have officially caught up and have now moved to this online digital platform in line with COVID regulations. We are so excited to have today speaking on the topic of creating outliers within this day and age, considering the pandemic that we are currently living through. Speaking specifically about the road to recovery, we have two guests with us, Ms. Kosim Kize, who is the founder and CEO of Requeza Credit Coaching. We also have with us Mr. Lebo Pasha, who is the general manager of AMI, which is the African Management Institute. To moderate this very interesting topic with us this evening, we have from our BBF team, Mr. Lwazi Mahlangu. And then before I sign off and I hand over to Lwazi for the evening, I'd also would like to introduce our BBF team that you can see at the moment. We have Sehodi on the team. We have Ms. Nozizo on the team. We have Ms. Lufuno joining us. I'd like to thank everybody so much for all your hard work putting this together and all the running around. Thank you so much. For those that are joining us now, welcome. For our speakers, thank you so much for indulging us and for giving us your time this morning. We cannot wait to pick your brain and just really go deep into this topic as it's at the top of everybody's mind. How do we really recover whilst we are still going through what we are going through as a country? We all know that it lies with us to create a new future for ourselves. It lies with us to move whatever pressure that we're going through into our treasure. So it's quite a big topic. It's quite an interesting topic, and I hope more people join us. Please do engage with us, ask questions. And then before I sign off, I also want to say that we will be posting a questionnaire on our different online platforms. And the main purpose of this questionnaire is to help us as the BBF management team. Then going forward, this is our first installment of creating outliers, and we would like to bring information that is relevant, information that is inspiring for you, and we'd like you to help us by answering this questionnaire so that it can actually direct the direction in which our next engagements will go into. Thank you very much. My name was actually Ayanda. I was supposed to introduce myself from the beginning, but no matter, I introduced myself at the end. I'm not the least important, but that's okay. I would like now to hand over to Lwazi to take it forward for us. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Anda, and also good evening to the audience and good evening to the team for joining us today. As I understand, we've got two guest speakers who will basically be discussing the issues under the topic, creating a generation of outliers. And I think we have chosen a point where everyone has been affected by the pandemic, and it has affected us different ways. It has affected us in the health system, where we basically have to get some medical care from the health system. So it does affect us. Families having to be locked in a house where you're used to be in the field. So there was an area where we were also affected. Some of us in businesses, and individual families. So generally, everyone's been affected by this. And in the advent of all of this, also we are experiencing a lot of other people taking advantage of the thing, but in a negative way, where we see quite a lot of corruption or corrupt activities and stuff. And also people getting laid off, unemployment and stuff. So this is basically the discussion around this, that living through this pandemic, how then do we convert these threats into opportunities and create a generation of outliers that will then create a better life for all? And our guest speakers basically will be touching on these matters, and then we will then have a series of discussions around that. So this is the start of this series, and really would like to welcome our guests. So without further much ado, what I'll do is that, although they've been introduced, I think by name, now they are going to introduce themselves by their business and what they do. So I would like to start off with Miss Mkize, probably just to briefly tell us about yourself, briefly, your organization, your company or business, and then just briefly also, what exactly do you do, especially under this pandemic? Just take us through that. Domkos?
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the introduction, Ayanda and Lwazi. I am Khosi Mkhize. I'm currently the founder and CEO of Requeza Credit Coaching. Just a bit of background about myself. By profession, I am an HR expert. So my expertise range from training and development, coaching and mentorship, talent management, to mention but a few. Requeza Credit Coaching, basically what we do is our focus is mainly on credit and financial literacy, and also assisting, especially with the pandemic right now. It's so relevant, the business that we're in. A lot of people have found themselves in a lot of trouble, not because of their doing. So we provide the knowledge, we provide the coaching, we provide the guidance in terms of, how best to handle the situation that they're in with regards to their debt and their credit affairs. And I take from my personal experience, because for me, it was something close to my heart when I started the business. It's a journey that I had walked. I had a failed business. Okay, maybe not failed, but a business that, took a knock after 10 years of success, where I found myself wanting and had to regroup, start again. It was pre-COVID, but, it talks so much to what a lot of people are going through right now. So just very, to summarize it, really, we are credit coaching experts and, credit literacy experts. And really, we're doing a fantastic job in terms of, getting people to also open up about something that's so sensitive, such as their debt. I know personally myself, I spent years running away from the situation, So today's platform, really, I hope, it's an opener for anyone else who is finding themselves in a similar situation, to say, you can't beat this. It's not the end of the world. We're in a situation, yes, where we find ourselves, probably wanting and not knowing where to turn next. But there is some sort of a light, and hopefully, somebody like me can bring that to the audience today.
Thank you, Kize. Should I then say Kosi, right?
Kosi, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for that. And you touched on the issue of yes, you may have used the word failure, and I think you more converted it into a yes, we may have failed, but here you are. You found different ways of how you dealt with whatever the situation was. And I think that's basically what we're talking about, that when you're talking about generation of outliers, you are touching on those issues. You may have been exposed to certain circumstances apart from the pandemic, but there are always threats, and how you then recreate yourself into an outlier. And that's precisely the topic today. Thank you, Kosi, for that. I think similar question, probably same question to Mr. Pasha. Also, on your side, tell us a little about yourself, as well as your organization as well, and how you are operating in this pandemic. Just briefly, Mr. Pasha.
Yes, thank you very much, Lazi. Greetings to the other panelists here, and also greetings to everybody who's watching us live today. And for me, I think entrepreneurship is about problem solving. I think that's something I really want to say up front. But my name is Lebu Pasha. I am also an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur during different phases of my career and my life. And I say so because I've always seen opportunities, and I've seen spaces where I could solve a problem. And a lot of people are actually entrepreneurs, but they don't realize it, because even in their workplace, that's what they actually do. They solve problems. But my background is, I come from a very maybe traditional sort of business background, so accounting, and I decided to do an MBA because I'd spent about 10 years of my career working at an executive level and as a non-exec director, but it also opened up quite a lot of opportunities in the enterprise and supplier development space, where I'd be working with entrepreneurs and startups under enterprise development and supplier development within some large corporates. And I was quite passionate about it. So I decided to have a much more deeper focus in the sort of middle part of my career on entrepreneurship. And I currently work for an organization called the African Management Institute. We've just had quite an exciting past 2 hours or so. We've released our impact report for 2020. Even though it's been a challenging year for a lot of people, and on a net sort of basis, we definitely say it's been a bad year for a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of businesses. There are some businesses that have done well. And one of the things I can now confidently say is that with a lot of the micro SMEs that we've been supporting, we've actually managed to have 100% survival rate for micro SMEs that we've been supporting. And the African Management Institute does both entrepreneurial and workplace learning. But today, I think I'll speak more towards entrepreneurship and that sort of space. So last year in March, when COVID started, we sat down as an organization and we realized that this is a global problem. COVID has left China, it's spreading across the world. It's arrived in Africa, and because we're a very diverse and pan-African organization with some people working off the continent, our first reaction was, let's sort out our house. So we moved very quickly from our more traditional blended and in-person learning programs to developing 100% virtual programs. We sorted out ourselves. But then we realized we'd left entrepreneurs and we'd left entrepreneur support organizations. So an organization like the BBF, accelerators, the incubators we work with, the NGOs we work with, we left all of those people behind. And it really showed us the importance of having a big entrepreneurial ecosystem and being a part of an ecosystem rather than working as an island. And we quickly then developed business resilience programs for both entrepreneurs and also for entrepreneur support organizations. So some of the impact reporting we've done today, or the impact reports we're releasing today publicly, covers a lot of the work we've done. We've actually managed to grow in 2020 from working with within 19 countries across Africa to 39 countries. I'm quite proud to say South Africa, we've managed to do more work in South Africa and support more SMEs last year than we did in 2019. And just to go back to where I started, I think we need to always remember, we always romanticize entrepreneurship and being in business, but at its core, being in business, being an entrepreneur is about solving problems. The first big problem you look at when you start your business is solving a problem for your customer, solving a pain, making some of their jobs easier, and it's helping your customer. But once you start actually running the business, you become the problem solver for everybody, not just your customer. Your employees look to you to solve problems, some of your suppliers, and even some of the people you interact with as a business will look to you to solve problems. How do you move product from your supplier to yourself and to your clients? All of those things are part of entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thanks, Lebo. While you still have the mic, just based on your intro, quite interesting point you've raised here, and your background as well as your organization in assisting the SMMEs. You also touched on the point of 100% survival of the support that you provided to these companies. While you're at that, I'm not sure whether your impact report is something that you can also touch on, discuss on, or is still something that it's yet to be discussed further. Now, on the part of the survival, I think this is what the question is. Part of some of the audiences, I'm sure they are also in business, probably looking for that kind of support. And some of them have found themselves probably lack of support and understanding the business, and also others who have just recently started businesses, never really thought of this pandemic, and it was the first time to really, have this kind of a knock. And now, from this 100% survival that you provided support, what would you say are some of the issues or some of the areas that you focused on for them to continue to survive? Did you see issues where there was a change in the business case, change in mindset, or a change in the business model to take advantage of this? What would you say it would be, so that at least those who are at home, having listened to this, may also start to think differently about this and then create that generation of outliers? Lebo?
I think initially when COVID started, and for some industries that are still impacted, like, for example, tourism and hospitality, there were initially three sort of key areas that we felt any SME or any business really needs to focus on. The first one was scenario planning. And just to take a step back, the biggest challenge was uncertainty, because nobody knew what the difference would be between a level 5 and a 4 and a 3 and a 2 and a 1. And we kept on moving between these different levels. Then we'd have a level 3 adjusted. So you thought you knew what level 3 was. And on a Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, when you're sitting with your family, you get told that there's now a level 3 adjusted. And a person who's not a business owner would hear that and then think about the aspects of their life that it affects. But for a business person, you think about that, and probably when you go to bed at night, you're wondering, okay, so how is this going to affect me? Do I need to call my customers? Do I need to call clients? Is it going to impact my employees? And all of those sort of things. Those are the things you really worry about the most. And what we felt was really important, and this is how AMI works. We prefer providing people with tools and frameworks that help a business owner deal with their problems. There's different models to non-financial support for SMEs, but we strongly believe in providing people with tools. There's also mentorship and other things, but research has shown that when you give a business owner a tool to help them either solve a problem or contextualize a problem, or even dig deeper into a problem, you're actually empowering them, because even when they do have a mentor, they then have a more meaningful conversation with that mentor. Instead of just saying, I've got a problem, they can now say, I've got a problem. I think this might be the problem. I'm thinking of trying this solution. Can you help me? Then coming back to COVID, we felt there were three really important areas to focus on. The first one being scenario planning. And what scenario planning does is it helps you think about the current situation, what I expect to happen, what if things get worse, or what if things get better. And then we looked at different dimensions when we looked at scenario planning, and we wanted people to imagine more so on the riskier side if things go wrong. How will my customers keep buying? Are my suppliers still in business? Are they able to get product if they're importing product? What about my other assets in the business? Because, for example, like now with level 4, I no longer need to have a coffee machine because nobody comes into the business anymore to sit and drink coffee, but I'm short of cash. Should I sell my coffee machine? I've got a bakkie, for example, that I had, and looking at the way the business is operating, that bakkie is just sitting. I'm no longer doing bulk deliveries to maybe as a caterer, for example. I'm no longer doing bulk deliveries to a factory up the road or in an industrial area. I'm doing smaller deliveries and I've got 2 scooters. So maybe I should sell the bakkie. So looking at those sort of things, and also cash flow. We looked at that, and we looked at risk management. So risk management took the thinking around scenario planning and said, where are the biggest areas of risk for my business? And then lastly, we combined that with cash flow planning. And so we married the scenario planning, understanding what could go wrong, 3 different scenarios, my best case, my middle case, which is what I expect, and my worst case, together with risk management and managing risk broadly across the business. And then taking those 3 scenarios and saying, I'm going to now forecast my cash and try and understand what sort of impact is all of these different scenarios possibly going to have on my business. And those 3 tools, or those 3 areas of focus, I feel were the most impactful, especially earlier in COVID. They also still very impactful now for industries like tourism, because if you speak to anyone in the tourism sector, they'll tell you that we are waiting. There's an app that you use to track flights. Anyone close to OR Tambo, that sort of region, is basically looking and seeing, is Emirates landing, is Qatar Airways landing, Delta Airways, are the flights back? Because those are the people who are bringing the tourists, and that's how their business survives. So we looked at that initially. And then the second part of what you spoke about, for the businesses where things opened up quite quickly for them. So these were businesses, a lot of which were essential services and SMEs playing in that sort of space, and people were able to trade in level 4 and 3. We then started looking at innovating and trying to reboot and rethink how you do business. And simply, we tried to say to people, look at the current resources and knowledge that you have and experience that you have, and try and apply that to different industries. So in one of the sessions that we had a lady who owned a small wedding and conference center in the greater sort of East Rand area, so closer to the airport. And she was basically saying all the bookings were cancelled. I don't know where I'm going to get any business. Nobody's traveling. Nobody's planning weddings or conferences anymore. Everybody's shifted to Zoom. And an example of something she could have done, and something I suggested to her, is that you have got a lot of space, secure space, close to the airport. If you then look at that as a resource, you could then reach out to the people who are currently doing business. So the people who are importing masks, importing sanitizers, and any other products that were high value and needed secure storage, you could start looking into that sort of space and find out if there were SMEs that would consider using your space, which isn't being used for anything else, for that sort of work. So there's always opportunities. It just needs, like I said, a problem-solving sort of mindset. And again, if you really want to be an outlier. It's about constantly solving problems. So the problems we have now during lockdown will disappear once we are permanently out of lockdown, and we'll start having new problems again, or the same problems we had before lockdown.
Right. Thanks, Levo. While you let me bring in Kosi here. I'll come back to the points you raised as well. You did talk about, you mentioned the issue of cash flow and stuff, and that will be part of the business survival as well as all these lockdowns or levels change. Now, Kosi, from your side, because you're dealing with credit, and probably you have been exposed to a number of companies asking or looking for credit, just to look at means of surviving. And from your side, given the changes in the levels of these lockdowns, 3, 4, how do you see the small businesses faring in that position? Also taking on board the nature of the business itself, and whether you do look at the viability of those kind of businesses, given their model and when they look for credit.
Okay, if I can also talk to what Lebu has been talking about in terms of the challenges of the entrepreneurs and taking advantage of being different or doing things differently. What we found, and what is a common one that comes to us, is you've got entrepreneurs who are individuals in their own right, who, as we know, one of the biggest challenges of being an entrepreneur is cash flow. We've had COVID relief funds, for example, that entrepreneurs couldn't access, and you look deep down, it boiled down to credit, because the same criteria was being used by the banks to actually vet them. And now, people have become so, what's the word? They've become so conscious of their individual credit, now that they know it actually affects their business, because you cannot go into a bank with your personal credit that is not, on par or in line with what the bank's criteria is, and actually try and apply for credit in your business or small business capacity. So I think, the education around it during this period has actually made people wake up and actually say, you know what, I need to actually stand up. I need to actually cut the bad, the bad habits or the patterns, because with the bad patterns or the patterns that you're used to, you cannot get different results. So we do get quite a lot of entrepreneurs, that we are coaching on a daily basis in their individual capacity, but filtering onto their businesses, obviously, because it does talk to the, it talks to them. The criteria is the same. So from our side, really, we the entrepreneurs have benefited with credit coaching, with the education, and just making them a little bit more literate. You find a lot of them are skilled in what they do in their everyday work. They know what they're doing. It's their line of business. It's their core. And just take it for granted that because I've been, painting for 10 years, I'm an expert at painting. Here's my work. Here's my catalog. Why can't the banks just give me, what I need now that I'm in trouble based on what I'm presenting? But it goes beyond that. It always, when you're dealing with a bank, it does go down to how, what is your personal behavior with credit as an individual? Your history almost predicts your future, and that's how the banks look at it. So it's very important. It's become so important for small businesses to not take it for granted that, hey, I've got the papers, I've got everything else, but I do need to take control of my personal life as an individual first. You know, I mean, I recently was sitting with an issue. We had an entrepreneur, a small business, which had two directors. One of the directors, was the bank was willing to fund, but not the other director. And just based on that, because they co-own the business or they are co-directors, the banks refused them, and that was a lousy, because it was a very small business and all they needed was like 25,000, and the bank refused. And they've done exceptionally well for themselves, even during the period of COVID, they had resources that they'd saved up, so they used a lot of their funds and just needed a bit of a boost, and all the banks refused. So the ripple effect on not taking control of your personal credit and finances is really huge. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Because while we at that point, on that point now, you talk about understanding your individual financial status and the history and the pattern of your spend, because that has implications in future. And the message you are basically sharing with the audience and us here is that that is a very important aspect, especially when you're in business, to understand the pattern and how your history is, because that will have, especially if you say, for instance, you need more credit for expansion. Your history then comes in, and that may affect you as well. Now, from a financial literacy point of view, now I'm lowering it now to small businesses. You've got small businesses, and you've got those one-man show, two partner businesses kind of things, and mostly would be driving their businesses, like you said, based on their shared interest, and they've mastered the skill at what they're doing. However, in terms of managing the business itself, which is administrative aspect, may be a problem. And how do you, from a financial literacy point of view, share that? Or what would be your points that you would then share with them? Lebo, you can also come in as well in that context. Kosi?
I think that one, that I think talks more to what Lebo's, business does in terms of SMME development. So I don't know if maybe Lebo wants to take a bite at that one.
Yeah, I can give it a shot. I think the big challenge with SMEs, especially the smaller ones, is that, like I said, you end up realizing that you're solving so many problems at the same time, and then you end up having very poor financial records. And even when you get opportunities like what government has opened up, where you can access some sort of funding, the government guarantee scheme, all of those things, they require you to have financials that are audited or reviewed. You're required also to have your taxes up to date, all of that stuff. And those are all the things that get deprioritized because they don't really bring in any money. Money actually goes out. And one of the things we try to do is motivate entrepreneurs and SME leaders and owners by saying to them, you can't measure something you're not really capturing and documenting. So if you really want to know how your business is performing at a micro level, who's your biggest customer, all of those things, start actually preparing your financials. And we show them how to get there quite quickly. Most of the banks now offer some form of free financial bookkeeping sort of software. So if you don't have a lot of transactions, if you don't have a complex business, there are ways to get you over the line. And usually that's the very first sort of step in helping people even get to a point where they can access credit. Because in a lot of cases, when the bank looks at you, and this is what a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand, whether it's a bank or it's another financing or debt financing institution, when they look at you, they need to understand that you can pay them back. So before they even think about giving you the money, you need to show them that even though I don't have the money now, but the way I trade or I run my business, I have an ability to pay you back the money. So when they look at that's the first reason they want your financials. But then when they do look at your financials, they now need to understand, if we are saying we're borrowing this person, let's say the 25,000 course he spoke to, and it's over a 5-month period, and let's say there's minimal interest, let's say you're paying 5,500 a month, they need to see that you are able to pay that 5,500 back. And not just that there's also room as well. Because if your net cash at the end of every month is 6,000 Rand, it means you've only got room for a decrease in sales or someone not paying you of 500 Rand. That's a significant risk. But if you can show them that your business is generating 15,000 Rand a month, then you're much lower risk, you're more likely to get that credit. So I think what helps a lot of entrepreneurs when we have these conversations with them is explaining to them the bank manager, the proverbial bank manager across the table from you when you're asking for a loan, or you need to expand, or whatever it is that you need to do. Their primary interest is for you to show them that you can service the loan. They're not asking you to show them that you don't need the money, but you need to convince them that, yes, I can service the loan. I've thought about the risks to me being able to service the loan. So for example, again, if you've only got one client, and looking at something Kosi spoke to, if you've got a big blue chip client, you're more likely again to secure that loan. But if you've got one client and it's a business that's also struggling and might have a very bad credit record of its own, then it reduces your ability, or the risk, it gets increased that you might not be able to pay back the loan. So that's the sort of thinking you need to have when you're looking at raising funding. And I don't know, maybe Kosi can speak more to it. The one big issue we've seen, especially last year, is that people will then take their personal savings, your pension, any money that you can access, a bit of money from your credit card or personal loan, to try and start a business because you've lost your job or something like that. And it now brings that risk directly into your personal finances, because if you're doing that, that's bootstrapping. And if you're doing that and the business fails, it's not just the business that fails. The business fails, but also it has a massive negative impact on your personal financial situation as well, and your credit record.
Yeah. Right. Now that you raise the issue of savings, which sometimes turns out to be the case, where people now either the business suffers, they tap into their savings, and that also speaks to financial literacy as well. I'm sure it also speaks to issues of development, understanding, training, and understanding the business and how to run a business. And when there are external shocks, how do you then keep afloat? Now, in your intro course, you say number of times you failed, and then you eventually, found your way. And the question now is still in the same frame of, problem solving as they were raised. How did you what was the transition? Or how do you move from understanding those failures to where you are now, that you can then say this is success? And was it during the pandemic, or it was before pandemic? And how did you maneuver? How did you navigate through that as part of this problem solving? I think the audience, some of them were already out in the business, probably find themselves in the space, who probably want to understand from yourselves, not without digging too much into your personal financial, whether you use your savings as well, but just from a technical point of view. Yeah. Kosi. Okay, maybe we've got a technical problem there. Okay, maybe we'll rephrase the question slightly while we're waiting for Kosi. In your impact study, as part of problem solving, we talk about I think there was mentioning of essential service, which normally is the case when you talk about, these lockdown levels, the risk adjustment. Now, for small, I'm looking at you're comparing small and the big guys, and how do you get the small guys within that value chain to also stay in business, re-engineer their business, take advantage of the changes? One is the model, opportunities, support from various sources, including government, and how do they then keep themselves, afloat within the value chain, not necessarily competing with the big guys, but finding ways of how to work with the big guys.
So what we found was really critical, I think, for most businesses was the relationship you have with your customers. Because what happened immediately when we shifted into lockdown, and this happened in South Africa, it happened across Africa, it happened globally. What happens is that your customers' problems changed immediately. Your customer had very different problems. If you're very close to your customer, if you could pick up the phone and talk to them, then you were quite lucky, because it gave you an opportunity to understand what the change was with your customers and how you can react to it. And then going back to what I'd mentioned a bit earlier, it then needs you to sit back and say, these are the current problems my customer has. What resources do I have at my disposal? So whether it's a bit of cash that I have, or it's skills that I have, or it's my experience, it's our processes in our business, for example. What do I have that I can use to satisfy these changing customer needs? So firstly, you definitely need to know what is it that the customer wants now, and how has it changed. The next sort of step in a lot of cases was saying, we're not expecting you to grow overnight. There are businesses that were just generally impacted, and there's nothing huge that you could do to suddenly gain a huge advantage. But what it also meant is that you needed to really start thinking differently about your channels and how you communicate with people and how you bring value to you. So we're currently looking at the tourism sector. We're working with some people in the tourism sector to try and solve some issues in that space. A great example in the tourism sector is a lot of tourism operators, a lot of accommodation establishments had gotten before COVID into a position where the customer came to them. And they're now in a situation where we are approaching August. That's the European summer, or the Northern Hemisphere summer. People want to travel. They want to see the world. They still want to come to Africa. A lot of them have been vaccinated now and are able to do that. We're also going to soon get into our travel and tourism and hospitality peak in South Africa, which starts around September, the weddings and everything that comes with it. But if you're a business, for example, that's in a transit town, so a town that connects to places. So for example, maybe someone in Harrismith connecting Joburg and Durban, someone in one of the towns that connect Bloem and Joburg, or Bloem and Pretoria, Bloem and Polokwane, and you only get traffic because of people going somewhere else. You need to now start thinking differently about, how do I go to the customer and meet the customer where the customer is? So start thinking about things like social media marketing. Do I now go to Facebook? Are there groups on Facebook that talk about traveling and road trips and things like that? What else can I offer? Because in a lot of cases, in smaller towns, in tourist towns, the people who own some of these accommodation establishments, they know a lot of the other offerings in that town. They know who operates tours. They know a lot of other things you can do. And you need to now start communicating and connecting with your potential customers, and sharing experiences and having conversations with them. But you need to start doing that maybe on a platform like a Facebook, within a Facebook group, or looking for other places. Look at Instagram. Don't just share photos, look at videos, share interesting things, and be more engaging. So I'm not going to name some of the booking platforms, but traditionally we all have apps. There's the Blue app that you can go onto. You search a town. It gives you all of the accommodation establishments, from a hotel to a guest house to a B&B to a room that you can share or dormitory. If you're on a platform like that, it's always been easy. People are coming to you, and the one thing that would affect you is the normal tourism cycles. Challenge now is think differently. Go out there and meet or fetch your clients and start filling up your bookings for the peak season.
Right. Thanks, Lebo. Just want to check from the panel if any questions, probably, if you like to throw in some. I see, Kosi, you are back. I'll come back later. Just want to check from the panel members. See, okay, I understand.
Yes. Sorry, I was having a bit of a technical challenge.
No, that's fine.
Yes, just
I'm sure these technical challenges, probably the audiences are probably now, thinking about how to solve these problems.
Exactly.
There's an opportunity.
There's a business idea right there. Some of us that were born before technology have just really been thrown into this 4IR stage. It moved from being a clothing label to being a reality. But just a question from Lebo. I really liked what he was saying when he spoke about the three tools for the entrepreneurs, and talk about that you give to the entrepreneurs: the cash flow planning, the risk management, and the scenario planning. But other than that, Lebo, you know that as entrepreneurs, it's a very lonely, almost traumatizing journey without COVID. And we can imagine that during this pandemic, how there was absolutely no warning. Everybody was just thrown into it. And there was obviously some massive panic, especially from the small business perspective. Even the big corporates, there was massive panic. But the point that I'm getting to is that, is there any work, and if there is, what type of work is the Africa Management Institute doing with the SMMEs from the perspective of now moving them from this point of being unstuck mentally and opening up their minds? Because with the pandemic, as I said, great panic hit us in the face unexpectedly. If maybe there's a case that you can go through for us, high level, in terms of how some of the entrepreneurs, because sometimes you'll find that the technical aspects, they know their core business, so they've caught on to these three brilliant tools, but the brain is still very much stuck that this was my problem. This is the problem that I was solving for my customer. I was solving my problem for my customer in this manner. I can hear you, Lebo, saying that I must use my space for a warehouse, but my finishes are not for that. So the person is sort of almost mentally stuck in how they want to do the business and how they wanted to do the business. What programs, if any, or any entrepreneurs that you've worked on or worked with to move from that point of being unstuck and really, turning around, as I said earlier, their pressure to their treasure?
So yeah, firstly, entrepreneurship is tough under normal circumstances. It's been extremely tough for most entrepreneurs. It's affected people's mental health, also massively negatively. And I think as any entrepreneur, a support structure is really important. Whether it's your family, it's your friends, whether it's relatives, you need to nurture those support structures and make sure that you've got a very strong, some strong backing from people that are close to you, because it has been a tough, I think now we're looking at 16 months. It's really been tough. It's been exceptionally tough. And it doesn't look like things are going to be better quickly. But from the AMI side, I think we launched last year, in the middle of last year, a program called Rise. And this was basically from our chairman leading it. He's a psychologist, a qualified psychologist. And we realized that we were dealing with the tools and working on the business and so on. And we may have left behind the softer parts of running a business. And you as well, as the lead entrepreneur or the person who's running around trying to not just grow the business, but actually save it in a lot of cases, and the impact it's had on you. And we'd have a lot of really impactful sessions where we start focusing a lot more on the entrepreneur as a person and how to deal with issues, whether it's issues around spirituality and what helps you get the energy to carry on your business. Sometimes it's not even spirituality, it's the impact that you sought when you started this business. It could have been a business that you felt would empower other people. And we looked at all of those things, and I think it's really been massively valuable for a lot of people. They engage with us quite a lot. It's a stream show, it's called Rise. And I think for me personally, one of the topics that we looked at within Rise that was really helpful was contextualizing taking a break. So when you do take a break, are you taking the break to re-energize and recuperate? Are you doing it for rest purely? When you do take a break, how do you get the most out of it? And that for me was really, really great, because we all take holidays and some people look even more tired when they come back from their holidays. Sometimes I've been one of those people because we end up doing so many fun things. But just the simple bit of introspection and thinking and planning before you take your breaks. What do I want to get from this long weekend? I'm not trading this long weekend. Am I just going to rest? Am I going to stay at home? Do I want to re-energize? Do I want to come back re-energized and able to do more things? That sort of contextualization of the time you take off can also help you and your business a lot.
Thanks, Lev. I'm just trying my luck, see if I can get some credit from Kosi for my holiday. Now that you're talking about these holidays, Kosi, before you, I think the question that we asked earlier on was linked to this problem solving and scenario. I think expounded more by who was actually given more levels, was that as part of re-engineering yourself, because I talked about mindset as well, change in mindset that you can bring new technologies, new systems and stuff, but if your mindset is still in the old way of doing things, with the ever-changing environment, how then do you keep yourself running? Now, in that context, you said you basically found yourself having to start afresh, right? And you failed a number of times, and now you're now successful. And how did you navigate that? Did you change your mind? Did you change your business, or did you change? And when did that happen? Was it before COVID or after COVID? And how did you navigate? If it was during COVID, how did you navigate that to where you are now? Because
Okay, thank you, Lwazi. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, so during COVID, with the time COVID started, which was March 2020, I had then now been in a job, and a job that was not fulfilling to me, For me, I want to be in a situation where I'm serving a purpose, I'm an HR professional by nature, not by nature, sorry, by profession. So problem solving for me comes naturally. You know, I'm a problem solver. I'm a nurturer by nature. So there was that itch in me, but at the same time, because of what I'd gone through, I did feel that I needed that stability at the time. So fast forward, COVID happens, March 2020, we are told to work from home. You know, I find that as an opportunity. Hey, I don't have to go back to this place every day that's not fulfilling my purpose to a certain extent. But at the same time, I was also working on myself, you know, all the things that I had been running away from, my debts, my credits. It was concurrent. So, you know, I had already started taking ownership of that. And it was so fulfilling for me where I started thinking, hey, if I can do this for myself, and I'd run away for so many years because things had fallen apart, surely I can help the next person. You know, so there again, that problem solving was kicking in. You know, I'm sure I can do it for the next person. And I'm sure so many people are going through what I have been going through. The shame, what are people going to say? I'd lost everything. I'd had a car repossessed. I had to move back home. You know, so I sat there and I said, you know what, I've done all my research in terms of, you know, how I'm going to get myself out of this, and you know, actually took a stand on it. And while working from home, you know, the penny dropped really. And I thought, you know, a lot of people don't have the education, you know, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, just shying away from facing up to the realities. So for me, really, it was it you know, the what I struggled with obviously was the mental state that said to me, but Kosi, you're now thinking of starting another business. What if it fails again? That weighed on me heavily, that played with my mind, you know, for many nights. But I said to myself, but currently I'm not living my purpose. You know, I'm not fulfilled with what I'm doing. I know that I can make a difference. You know, I can be that outlier, you know, and that's where, that was the turning point. I had a bit of, you know, money that I had saved up, which was, you know, the salary that I'd been getting, you know, over the months that I'd been with the company. And I said, you know what, now is the time to do something. And I started with family members, you know, just to test the waters. Because I also have family members who were in similar situations. So it just started off as something, let's try it with the family first, you know, but it was something I was passionate about. And when you're passionate about something, but you know, of course it's a business, but the passion's gotta come with it as well. It couldn't have come at a better time, you know. I sit here and I can really say, you know, South Africa needs this now more than ever. Every single day we are inundated with people who, for different reasons, you know. I go back to what Lebo said about the support structure, and he was talking in the context of a support structure, maybe family members, colleagues, or whatever the case may be. People have found our business to be their support structure. We get people that are calling us just to give them that comfort. And it's so much easier when you've walked the journey, you know. I've walked the path. It's so much easier for me to empathize with them. It was not easy starting the business, but because I knew I needed to live my purpose, I needed to feel fulfilled, and really the passion about people, you know. So really, we have become that structure for a lot of people. I know we've been talking a lot about entrepreneurs, you know, which makes it sound like a collective, but individuals really are walking and probably thinking, what's next for me? I've lost my job yet again. People have been laid off. I mean, hotels have closed last week unexpectedly. These are individuals. These are people that are breadwinners in their families. And to have them come to us and say, how can you help me? I cannot pay my accounts, because I'm not getting an income. And just being the ear for them, but also the counsel for them is making a huge difference. It really is helping with the depression that people are going through. People are suicidal. I mean, I've had people call me and say, "Ingathi ngazibulala," I don't see a way out. And there's always a way out, and it really is about thinking differently. Yes, but we can overcome this. We will overcome it. These are challenging times, of course, yes. But we're gonna get there. We will ultimately get there. It's a daily thing that we have to constantly be working on, being that structure for individuals as well. I mean, it's you won't believe how inundated we are just in this week alone. And people take what we say seriously. People are now also taking control of their finances. And as the years go by, we are all getting older. We've got kids. Kids must go to school. So really, it's about taking control, but also finding your purpose, finding your passion. I did not wait for, I now have money, let me do this. We'll never have enough money. We'll always be wanting more money. The money will come, but we've got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Now, thanks. Because let me challenge you on these two questions, Kosi and Lev. The difference between the two, and now based on the 2 points, Lev, you talking about scenario planning, problem solving, and then, of course, you also talk about you starting your own business, problem solving, the passion, and all this. Now, 2 things come to mind here. One is there are those who have access and have the means, to think or start afresh, and they go full force. And there are those who have no means, great ideas. There is the willingness, but no means to do that. Means can be financially, could be also, ability to move around. Also, the issues around support structures, such as a family, and also sometimes sometimes you find that great ideas, but you don't have that family support or buying into your idea. So that's the one part that. How do we balance that, and what do you share? How would you share with that? And then there is a second part where there are those who help others, to think differently and survive. How have they helped themselves before helping others? Do you use the same? I think this is where I'm throwing it to you, Levo, as well. That in the impact study, are you seeing that those that you have helped, you talk about 100% survival, but are they also willing to help themselves without, or have they learned something from that so that they are able to help themselves and then help others because they've learned something from you helping them?
Look, oh, Slave talking. Okay, just to talk to your second point, Lwazi, from my side, really, where you're asking how have the people we have helped or I have helped maybe help others who have been in a similar situation. That I can categorically say, yes, it is happening. People are talking about the work that is being done. The difference that has been made in people's lives. Naturally, the word spreads, and they are telling their family members or helping their family members to say, hey, you've been running away from this. Here are people that you can now talk to, Then I get the sister who will call and say, please don't tell my sister I phoned, but, because I don't want her to know about my problem. Already, that for me has gone full circle, there's been so much achieved in just that one person. You get now another family member. I mean, I've had even from my own circle of friends who know each other, but have come through and said, you know what, we see the good work that you're doing, on Facebook, very quietly, very silently. We're watching you on Instagram, but please don't tell anybody that I've come here, So it's working. People are talking. People are sharing. And that for me is really big. It makes me so happy that people are now opening up to such sensitive issues as well. We understand the sensitivity around it, but they're finding that comfort structure, that support system that maybe they feel they will not get from like their sister or the friend, etc. Yeah.
Level on your side, the tools that you provide or that support, are you seeing them also using them for their own survival without you coming back again?
So yes, we're definitely seeing that. The one big thing was with COVID and the massive adoption of digital solutions and digitization is some of these things we take for granted. I'm actually in not just my own home. There's 6 other people here, and I'm in all of your homes. Like you're all at home right now, and we take that for granted. But once you start working at that level and you interact, even if it's just with your colleagues, you realize that we're now basically in each other's homes. We're at level 4 in Gauteng. We're all joining from home, I'm assuming. And even if it's just the business people that, or the entrepreneurs or the lead entrepreneurs that we've worked with, we started realizing that by impacting livelihoods just at their level, it's impacting their partner, it's impacting their children, and their employees as well. Also have families, it's not just them. So definitely, yes, it's got that snowball effect. We haven't been able to quantify how big it is, but definitely we have seen that. And then speaking to resources and access to resources, unfortunately, we are a developing nation. We don't have endless resources. We're not a rich country. Probably in terms of looking at developing countries, we are probably one of the more better off of those countries. But working across the African continent also opens up your mind, and you start seeing that isn't a reason for you to not try and do something to change your life. And one way to probably speak to people who feel that they don't have access to the resources, they can't get to what they need to start their business, is to also maybe then help them open up their minds. We've got the resources out there. I've in my experience, the biggest obstacles are actually probably pride and fear to doing anything big or great in your life. And we do have access across, especially Gauteng is extremely lucky. There's many areas where you can go, whether it's walking to your, I won't mention the restaurant name, but the one with the big M, they've always got free Wi-Fi. So you can go there, you can access Wi-Fi. If you need to send, just like you can send your CV, you can go and email, check your emails, download your emails, and send your business plan or things like that. You can apply. If you need to ideate and start a business, there's so many free resources out there. And I'll give you a practical example. I was thinking now when we're talking, where I said that we almost all are entrepreneurs because we solve problems. So if you're someone in the tourism sector, you are managing people and helping the hotel improve service quality levels, you've got a major resource that you're sitting with. It's experience in helping frontline employees deal with service quality levels and improve that. And it means if you can take that and turn it into a process, you could actually help other SMEs build out their processes to improve their satisfaction levels for services. So any SME that delivers services. So that's a huge asset. That is a business on its own. You could open a consulting business doing just that. But again, you'd now need to think about ideation, like what do I need to make this process work? There's a lot of tools that are free out there. You can go onto the Business Model Canvas website. You can learn about that. You can reach out to a lot of government agencies that are out there, which would help you with the initial part of that business. And then you now start thinking, well, I need to do CIPC related things. I don't know what to do. There's again a lot of government agencies that are assisting people with doing those sort of things. So you wouldn't have to use the last of your money to get someone to help you with those things. Even the DTI or /CIPC's website gives you a free BE certificate. So you don't even need to pay for those sort of things. I think, again, maybe adding to pride and fear, the other one is just not taking the initiative. Google is a very powerful asset. It's a massive resource for learning things and for knowing where to go to get some of the things you need to solve your problems. So we're sitting in a country that has been forced to digitize extremely quickly. The massive benefit of that is we're now at a point as a country where within 24 to 48 hours, you could have a business that is registered, that has a bank account, that has a BE certificate, that is probably registered for government tenders, CSD, but also a business that, so there's companies, there's agencies out there that can do a free website for you. So you'd have a website for that business. And today is a Thursday, and by Monday next week, you could have, as that service consultant or service level expert, you could have an actual functioning business. We've got Zoom as well. Zoom is a free package where you can do 45-minute meetings. Most meetings in the workplace are around that 30-minute mark. And you would be able to speak within 40 minutes or so with your client and deliver a pitch and get feedback from them. So yes, there are definitely hurdles to starting a business, but digitization has democratized in a way starting a business, and it's really made it so much easier to start a business.
Yeah. Thanks, Level. Now, because you're now talking about that there are tools, there are systems, structures, and availability of information is available to for one to start business and stuff, which I think Kosi did mention that she did her own research and she's passionate about now what comes to mind now is the saying that if they have not, don't eat, the haves might not sleep. Now, in the context of high unemployment, amongst the youth unemployment, how do we encourage the young ones, to go into business? having taken into those whole things now, without talking about the tools and the stuff, but now the mindset itself, how do we encourage them? I know there's the issue of young competing with the quickest way to success is a tender. But how do you move them from that mindset of a tender to say, look, because right now most of them were thinking PPEs, sanitary, decontamination and all those kind of things. And those are big things that need mass infrastructure and knowledge. But now how do we take advantage of small things that the youth can actually, get into that space? And I'm not sure, Kosi, from your side, in terms of your financial literacy and your engagement with others and level from your impact studies, how do we encourage the youth to go into that?
Look, from my side, a key one really to the youth, I would say one, never ever stop learning, whether it's a new skill, whether it's anything new, never stop learning, never stop researching. As Lebo was saying, there is the big M that we know of that gives them access to free Wi-Fi, for example. So those things really are at their disposal. Do your research. Use Google. Google is there for us to really indulge in, But for me, a key message really, when it comes to starting a business, and don't just start it because, I want to make money. And as you're saying, Luaz, no, sanitizers, I should get in there. We are going to eat. Really have the passion. Think about something that when you're sleeping at night, it actually wakes you up with a smile, because you're so passionate about it. Find your purpose. We all have different purposes. Find something that is fulfilling for you as well. So that would be my message to the youth. But really, never stop learning. I'm old now, but just a year ago, I started a business less than a year ago. I mean, I went live in September, so we're not even in September yet. And I did that, at my age. And I consider myself, fairly, old for learning and starting new things and being an expert at it, So really, there is no time frame to learning and really, finding your purpose. Yeah.
I guess, Kosi, while you still have the mic, it's the idea of forever learning is evident in you saying your background is HR, but you're now into financial literacy. You had to find a niche, something that, but you can always even still use some of the experience from HR in understanding the people and also applying it in this business. So learning is forever there.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm dealing with people on a daily basis. It comes naturally to me because I've got the experience of dealing with people. Yep. So now was really just about tweaking it here and there, learning, the details about the legislation around what we do, the rights of the consumers, because that's also something that, we're sitting here as a platform and we're all consumers here. Do we all know our rights as consumers? Yes, no, maybe to a certain extent. So, yeah.
I think then on my side, Lwazi, I'd say the one significant thing or really important thing is honesty. I don't think we are quite honest about business when we talk about business in South Africa or talk about business with young people. They tend to then feel that, me being in business means I'm going to get, the G63 or an M4. I can sleep and wake up whenever I want to. Nobody's going to be my boss. I can tell people what they do and what I want them to do. I can have my name on the door and all of that stuff. They see the fancier parts, and it's quite sad that we don't have a culture of honesty around being in business. And young people then tend to romanticize being in business. They don't understand how tough it is. So I think the one really important thing to do when talking to young people about business, tell them business is hard. Yes, you can sleep when you want to. That's if you have time to sleep, because everybody from your receptionist to your customer to your supplier will be calling you when they want to call you. And if it's at midnight because there's a delivery at your company or whatever and no one else is picking up, then it will be at midnight. So we need to be very honest about business. The second one, I really liked what you and Kosi touched on around what are you currently really good at? And this doesn't really limit you to what you've studied, if you've studied anything in particular. But the one thing you need to understand is that if you want to go into any business, you need to be an expert in that particular thing. So I'm actually, I think a bit differently around the tenderpreneurship, the controversial tenderpreneurship space. I feel it's always a lost opportunity. So if I'd received a tender to do sanitizers last year, I would have seen that as a significant opportunity for me to use that customer or client, whoever it is, government or SOE or whoever, to actually build a business around that. So nothing would have stopped me from using maybe tea tree oil and having a fancier range and selling that to people who want something fancier. Nothing would have stopped me from looking at other products around that same space that maybe weren't as easier to get, but whoever was supplying me with the sanitizer also sells those things, and I'd look at selling those things. There's issues around oxygen. So if I am now already playing in that space, those particular clients would probably also have issues right now with oxygen supplies. Maybe that's something I could solve. And I now have the funding to expand into allied products and services. And I always see it as a big lost opportunity when somebody's a tenderpreneur and they don't understand that they've been given an opportunity to grow a business and to become an expert in that particular area. So I see that as a huge opportunity. Even if you're getting a tender for something you might see as insignificant, that is an opportunity for you to now go and become an expert in that particular thing. And then also another one, maybe not just for the youth, but also for people who may have lost their jobs right now, which is happening to a lot of people. You may have lost your job, and even if you haven't, and you've got issues around job security, maybe you know that your company is having issues, move before you actually lose the job and start looking at alternatives and ways to generate income. And I'd say that the easiest place to sort of win is play in areas where you are an expert. Because if you're not an expert, you're going to have to spend those nights reading through a lot of material to be an expert in the space you want to get into. So we might all want to, for example, start a business flying drones and doing all sorts of stuff. You now need to understand that you need to be an expert if you're going to be selling a product like that. And I think that's the one thing people don't usually get told. So we can all dream, but we need to keep our feet on the ground. Easiest way to start a business, look at what you're really good at now. It doesn't have to be a qualification, but rather look at the details of what you actually do. Maybe you're great at talking to people, maybe you're great at solving service issues, like I said, and you can then take those same skills, those resources that you have, apply them to a different industry that might not be having the same issues as the industry you're coming from. And it's a huge opportunity for you. It could be a business for you. And then the last one would be to say to anybody who's out there, again, looking to start a business, whether it's youth or someone who has issues around job security, is also take advantage of what's already there. So target the industries that haven't been as badly impacted by COVID. Look at their enterprise and supply development initiatives, because the triple BE legislation ask large corporates to go and spend money on enterprise development. So this is helping small businesses that want to start up. And if you are able to solve a problem that that large corporate has, then you could potentially find yourself with a corporate that can help you in one way or another, both financial support and non-financial support.
Yeah. Thanks, Level. One last one. While we are on that point is people. You make mention of the fact that you need to focus on what you're good at and sharpen that skill, and you can enter that environment. And do you guys think that probably one of the things that may be discouraging is the fact that what you as an individual think you are good at, you find that there's already millions of people in that space, and then people then get discouraged and then lose that whole understanding of, while you may be entering that environment, you need to then start thinking differently, and what will then make you an outlier amongst those people. What would be your advice, especially to people who are getting into an environment where almost everyone is already in that space, but the environment itself has great opportunities?
I can give it a shot first. I think looking at innovation generally, there's a couple of different ways to innovate. You could innovate around your business model. So this is how you actually run your business. And this is really broad. You can innovate around the channel. You can innovate around your costings, maybe your value proposition. There's areas that you can really focus on in your broader business model. This is how you deliver value to innovate. The other alternative is the traditional approach. You could be developing a product or a service that is new, so something nobody else has done before. And I think a nice example would be, there's the TV series, I'm not sure which one it was, that featured the Lodox, which is a X-ray machine, for lack of better words, that's used in casualty wards, developed in South Africa. It's used across the globe, where they can actually take X-rays of people who've been involved in bad trauma incidents. So a bad accident, for example, where they're not going to move you around a lot, but they can get a full X-ray of your body. So you can develop a program from scratch using what you know. So there's slightly different approaches to doing something like that. The one thing you do need to know, though, is a simple product like bread. We can get bread from so many sources, but all of those businesses are running today. Most of them are competing on cost, but the smarter ones then go and play around, because bread is not a new product. You play around with the business model. Your filling station can charge you an extra 2 or 3 rands for bread, because they're charging you for the convenience that after this call, some of you will be told by sons, daughters, partners that, hey, by the way, you don't have bread for tomorrow. So now you need to run out and buy bread. And they're charging you for the convenience of knowing that our normal ShopRite, Spar, Woolies, Pick and Pay are all closed. So there's so many other ways to solve the detail around a problem. So the problem is bread, yes, but now all of us on this call have a problem of getting bread at this hour, and then you can charge a slightly higher margin. Or you can even look at a model where you're actually bringing bread to the person and they don't need to leave the house. And for that convenience, you can charge a bit more. And maybe to bring the cost down, you now look at a system where they subscribe to that service. It lowers your cost of transporting bread, and you do bulk deliveries between 8 and 10 every morning, something like that. So there's always opportunities. I think, again, like I'd said initially when we started, it's about the problem, understanding the problem well, and trying to look for innovative ways of solving that problem. And just like I've spoken about solving the issue of delivering bread, believe me, other people will adopt that. And like I said earlier with problems, it's about solving problems repeatedly. So you now have a problem where everybody's doing the same thing. You'd again need to innovate and find another way of solving that same problem.
Yeah. Kosi, on the same point, you talk about levels, talking about, thinking, find alternative ways how you can actually have that competitive edge. And what I'll probably put it differently. Say, could it be that one of the challenges facing the youth or general people is it's a lot of hard work, one, to think about a business, think about how I'm going to do that. And the thinking process, there's always this problem of, I want to be in this business because so and so is doing that. So there's no element of understanding it, but you are in it because someone is making money out of it. So that is the thinking part of it. Then you also have the work that goes into it, which is the processing of that, which is also hard. And so people tend to look at how much will I make from this and what will I do with that before they even start thinking of how do I get there before I get there. Are you seeing that in your engagements, Kosi, with people in terms of, because you're talking about credit, you're talking about financial literacy, and probably some of the questions they throw is people are looking at, if I get 1 million, I'll be able to get 5 million profit rather than going for 10,000 and I'll get less. Are you seeing that mentality in the space? Kosi?
No, definitely. I mean, that's always a challenge. And for me, really, it's the mind needs to also shift to looking at it in a way of what do people actually want? Yes, I've got what I'm good at, but what are people actually prepared to pay me for? What is the need out there? So yes, we do get a lot of people who do come through to us. In as much as they're coming for credit and more on the financial literacy side, but when you get talking to them, if they are an entrepreneur, those are the hurdles and the challenges that they have. It's a lot of work. Am I going to be successful? Is my product actually going to be bought into? And just to add on to what Lebo was saying, you've got to come with something almost different. If you're getting into an environment where somebody else is in, or where it's been saturated, you've got to enhance your product, make it stand out, be the discovery vitality, of your industry. There was Bonitas before Discovery came in, but they hit us with your vitality, for example, and that was a big differentiator. That's what made the difference. That's what started the difference with a Discovery. Sorry for mentioning names, but so I know we were talking M's and D's. Yeah. So yeah, in as much as yes, it's hard work. Yes, there's a lot that it will take to get to get it started or up from the ground. But you've got to be innovative in your thinking as well, and think out of the box, really. Be different, stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. With the pandemic and all of us, in the virtual space, I'm just thinking of other examples. We always have these metric dances and stuff, and you see that in other countries they've gone virtual, and some I think I saw a video of a band. They got together, but virtual. They have their own rooms. They had a music, they had a song, and they played. And what comes to mind is, if you look at the context of South Africa, you've got a lot of young stars who are into drama, who are into music, into this space. And I think this is where now the opportunity in terms of how do I showcase my talent, using this space. And in the process of your talent, you are also learning the channels you are using, to showcase. And I'm thinking that these are some of the opportunities that probably we can say those that in that space, you can look at it in that context, that as you showcase your talent, you are also learning, the means and the platforms you are using, and you may also learn one or two. I'm raising this from the context that you are in HR, you are in finance, you are maneuvering, you are using these tools differently in a different environment. And also the mindset should not be more focused on what's my talent, but through showcasing my talent, I may be learning other things that may turn into a business. And that's the message I'm getting, to the youth, in the discussion between Kosi and them. And also the issue around being passionate about something is, that some they call it the passion. You have to have the drive and the passion to actually have that, to drive that, and patience as well, perseverance. If you really look at the KFC, how it started, sleeping in the car, buying a pressure cooker, being rejected over 1,000 times, but right now we are enjoying the finger licking good, and those are the kind of things that it may not take long for most of them, but the manner in which you put your mind to something may actually propel you and move you faster than the others. And it is the thinking part, I think, that we need to really take that message to the youth, in understanding, not to be too quick on what's in it for me, rather than what's in this thing, that it will bring something for me. And I think that's the message I'm getting there, getting as well. And on that note, I think I'd like to take this opportunity. Thank you, Kosi. Thank you also, Lebu, for taking time to be part of this session. I think this is part of the first series. As Ayanda raised, that is our first webinar, and I think we will be going live on sharing this knowledge, and also encouraging, empowering, imparting knowledge about ways of how we can improve our lives. And this is a journey of how do we navigate through these difficult times, and how then do we create outliers, think differently, act differently, and how then do they bring a change in the society. And with those notes, with that, I would like to really take this opportunity on behalf of the team. Thank you very much, and hope the audience as well. Thank you, the audience, for participating, and also I hope they've learned something out of this. And this is the first of many. And as Ayanda raised, there's a link on the survey. And the survey also helps us to generate more ideas and ways of how we can then also deliver a series of, sessions that will also improve and help people in the space. On that note, thank you very much, guys. I think really much appreciate. I wish I had a virtual gift I would give you. Normally we do that, obviously crafted by my own hands, but anyway. But thank you very much, Lebu and Kosi. I think we will do something outside of this. Thank you. Ayanda?
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for this thing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just as a last word to the team, thank you so much, Kosi and Lebo, and on behalf of the team, but also, as I mentioned earlier, we do operate under the auspices of the Bethesda Christian Center, and I'd like to thank you on behalf of our pastors, who this is their initiatives, and without being biased, I think we are their favorite ministry. But just to explain why a church would have a business foundation like ourselves is, as we were speaking today, it is exactly for the purposes of today's webinar. A pastor and priest will come and, they can tell you about James, they can tell you about John, they can tell you all the verses in the Bibles. What we do as the Bethesda Business Foundation is we extend that learning from Sunday, and we make it, not that that's not real, but we bring it down to the basics of, once I've heard that word, how do I then not just become the hearer of the word, but the doer of the word? Because nothing that we've discussed today, you spoke about such pertinent values that we hear about and learn about every Sunday. Because you mentioned, and Lebo, you mentioned the issue of not being able to start your business because of pride, because of fear, because of not taking initiative. You mentioned issues of being honest, hard work, and just becoming an expert. We continuously, one of the favorite things that our senior pastor says to us and some of the others before he starts preaching is, let's go to school. And this is us extending what he has taught down to what we now must do Monday to Saturday before we come back to the feeding again on Sunday. So really, when I say my heart is full, and I thank you on behalf of the pastoral team, you have really taken what they've taught us and you've laid it bare for us on a daily basis, that once I've now heard the word, what am I going to walk out here and do? And you've made it clear. When we say the road to recovery, these are principles that are taught biblically. But when you think about it, you're like, okay, so what, must I pray more? Must I fast? That is not really going to make you recover economically. And really, that is the point that we do have this Bethesda Business Foundation wing, and why we are so passionate about it, and why we continue to bring these forums to the people. And thank you so much. We really do wish we had a virtual gift. Maybe at our next, we'll think of some innovative ways. That's the theme of the day. And Lebo Kosi, we've taken note of what you have said. This is definitely not the last time you engage with us. All our speakers, once you come and speak at our forum, you become family. So we definitely will be in contact, and we hope that you have, also enjoyed yourself. Thank you so much for indulging us, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you, team. Thank you, Lwazi, very much also for your moderating. And thank you, everyone who has joined us. Our live session will be ending in a few minutes. Thank you so much, and good night.